In a quiet suburb nestled against a dark forest, there was an old house that everyone talked about but nobody dared to visit. It stood there with its crumbling facade and broken windows like a sad relic of the past. Legend had it that the house was haunted, host to the vengeful spirit of a woman named Eliza Mallory, who had mysteriously disappeared from the village decades ago. They said she wandered the halls at night, crying for the child she lost, taken from her as part of some cruel, forgotten tragedy. Emily, a curious and bold teenager new to the area, had heard these stories but refused to believe them. Ghosts are for children's tales, she told her friends with a dismissive laugh. Determined to prove them wrong, she decided to enter the house one chilly October night. Armed with only a flashlight and her phone, she pushed through the rusted gate and stepped onto the overgrown path leading to the house. The air turned cold, and an unnatural stillness enveloped her. As she stepped inside, the wooden floorboards groaned under her weight, protesting her intrusion. Dust particles floated in the dim beam of light from her flashlight, creating ghostly shapes that danced in the air. Emily called out, "Is anyone here?" Her voice echoed through the empty rooms, but there was no reply. She wandered from room to room, her flashlight revealing scenes of decay, broken furniture, peeling wallpaper, and old portraits whose painted eyes seemed to follow her. Then, she heard it, a faint sobbing, barely audible. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. "That's just the wind," she told herself, but the sobbing grew louder, more desperate, filled with sorrow and pain. Emily followed the sound to a small room at the back of the house, a nursery. The air in the room was icy cold, and the sobbing seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. She saw a shadowy figure standing by the crib. It turned slowly, revealing the hollow, anguished face of Eliza Mallory. Her eyes, full of despair, locked onto Emily's. "Where is my baby?" Eliza whispered, her voice haunting and filled with years of yearning. Emily couldn't move, couldn't speak. Her flashlight flickered and then went out, plunging her into darkness. The sobbing grew louder, almost deafening now, and Emily felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She screamed and ran, stumbling out of the house and not stopping until she was back at her own home, breathless and terrified. The next day, her friends noticed a change in her. Emily was no longer skeptical of the haunted house. The experience had marked her deeply. She never spoke of what she saw that night. But sometimes, alone in her room, she would hear faint sobbing, as if the echoes of Eliza's sorrow had followed her home.